Thanks for tuning in to Discover Stories on Reimagine Radio. Before we get started, here's a word from our sponsor.
Do you wish you had a voice in making some of the world's most popular websites more accessible? Fable is recruiting a community of paid assistive technology users who work from home to test websites and provide feedback on how they can be improved. We're currently recruiting testers who use Dragon, voice control, eye tracking, switch controls, and head mice. No resume, no cover letter, and no experience with user testing is required. Learn more and apply at www.makeitfable.com/community.
So, welcome to the VAMS Reimagine Radio podcast. I'm your host, Noah Stolte, and Bryden Vino from VAMS is also here with me.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Bryden. And today we are interviewing the folks from the Youth Leadership Initiative, and I'm sure they'll have lots of great things to say. We have Alice.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Noah, and hi, Bryden.
Hey, Alice.
Hello.
An honor to be here.
Well, thanks for being here. Yeah, we really
awesome.
appreciate it.
Yeah, we have Max.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, guys. Great to be here.
Awesome. And we have Josh.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, what Max and Alice said, great to be on with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining us. So right out the gate, I think a great thing to start with would just be an explanation of what the Youth Leadership Initiative is, or YLI. And I'm not sure who wants to take that question, but...
Sure, I can take on that.
Awesome. Thanks, Alice.
Hi, my name is Alice, and I'm the project coordinator with the YLI project. It's been 2.5 years since I'm with this project. And what is the YLI? The Youth Leadership Initiative empowers youth with disabilities to identify, discuss, and come up with solutions to attitudinal barriers faced by post-secondary youth with disabilities. Because we find that even up till 2023, the unemployment and an underemployment rate of post-secondary youth with disabilities are still significantly higher than those without disabilities. So through this project, we are hoping to come up with solutions to help them overcome these barriers faced by them in the job seeking process. And the YLI project is run by a diverse youth, including those with disabilities. So this project is run for youth and by youth with disabilities too.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's a pretty special, unique thing. I think I haven't really heard anything like it before. Alice, who came up with this idea for YLI, and what circumstances led to realizing something like the YLI was necessary?
So the YLI project was inspired by another project run by another affiliated society, Connectra. So back in 2015, they had a research project bringing 250 people with disabilities and also volunteer mentors coming together to set up career goals and to guide them through to find meaningful employment. And towards the end of the research, only 31% of people secured employment. And during the research, they find that there are barriers that they are facing, and the attitudinal barriers are the key challenges. So, for example, the self-confidence, the perceived discrimination, or just the perception of 9 to 5 structures are the key barriers. And this is how we originally came up with the idea. But I can let Max to speak about how he began all the literature review and such.
Okay, great.
Yeah, sure, Alice. So the project initially started, I believe it was fall of 2020. So I was hired as a co-op student back then. And the person who actually initiated the project was Ruby, the former
Right.
executive director
Yeah.
at the time. And yeah, as I was mentioned, that it was it's it was sort of inspired by another project um, that was run, I believe, UBC actually at that point, and they sort of found that attitudinal barriers were important, but in that previous project, it wasn't quite clear sort of how they were affecting the youth
Like there wasn't
in
enough
there.
research at that point. Yeah.
Yes, and
Okay.
that's
Okay.
why sort of a new project was needed.
Mm.
And when I started as a co-op student, I sort of looked at the other literature, sort of what was there, and came up with sort of a theory where attitudinal barriers like low self-confidence or like low performance expectation are the things that affect employment chances of
Mm.
youth with disabilities. So that were the sort of circumstances how the project started, and then I came up with like survey questions, and the survey needed to be distributed and even marketed in a way, I guess, and that's when I think Alice was the second person who got hired for the project. Then it was Serena,
Mm.
uh, and then uh, and then Josh joined us a bit later. So yeah, these were these sort of that's the context why I suppose.
Okay. I actually have a question. You've been saying attitudinal barriers quite a bit, and I think it'd be awesome if one of you could maybe just kind of go into detail to describe like really what that means. You've said a little bit, but I think it would be great to hear like a full explanation of that concept.
So by attitudinal barriers, we mean barriers that sort of, in a sense, prevent youth on a level of, you could say, consciousness or whatnot. So in particular, we looked at low self-confidence, meaning uh, when a person just doesn't have enough confidence because of their disability.
Mm,
Um, Another one was performance expectation. It means that a person with a disability thinks that they need to work a lot more than a person without disability to either get the job or even to stay at the job.
right. Okay.
Uh, and also perceived discrimination is when a person feels like, well, they're essentially being discriminated upon either during the hiring process, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
like during any stage, like when they mention their disability or whatnot, or the job itself. So this was these were sort of the main aspects, I would say, that we focused on.
Right. So it's like a lot of it is the attitude of the actual person who has the disability looking for maybe employment. But you could say it's also like of the employer themselves. They might have put up some kind of barrier as well, like maybe without not even realizing they're doing it.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
it is twofold in a sense. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. But the focus is on the actual person looking to gain employment, and like the structure as it is, like kind of isn't beneficial to people with disabilities all the time. Like you said, that 9 to 5 structure isn't always the best, right? Sometimes people have to work harder just to feel like they can catch up when that doesn't necessarily have to be the case, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Um, so Max, you kind of mentioned how you got started with Wildeye. Maybe Josh, would you want to chime in and just say how you got involved and maybe like what leadership means to you? Maybe we can talk a little bit about leadership in general too.
Yeah, for sure. So as Max said, I kind of joined the project on the tail end of the process of actually gathering the information and doing those group questionnaires where we were getting this data from. And since then, we've kind of moved on to like creating this advisory committee to oversee the creation of the toolkit. And what really attracted me to this project was I'd worked in municipal politics for about 2 years prior, and I could really just kind of see this need and barrier for youth in general in accessing employment, especially right out of like post-secondary institutions, universities and colleges. And then you kind of add that second barrier of being a youth with disability who needs accessibility, and it becomes this whole other like issue that kind of needs to be solved, and that really has been taken into account before. So I was really kind of attracted to that idea of being able to help, and doing some research on the Disability Foundation and the YLI. Their mission statement just really spoke to me, and the idea that they were not only kind of targeting youth who were seeking accessible employment, but also employers was really something that I've never really seen before. So that's one of the things on the toolkit that I've been really excited to help out with was how it's been targeting employers as well, who are looking to create more accessible work opportunities and kind of marketing that as or showing it for like the positive that it is. Not only in hiring youth who have disabilities, but just in creating and fostering like a healthier work environment.
Wow. Yeah. Maybe, yeah, that's fantastic. I didn't realize, Josh, that you were working in municipal politics before that. So you kind of have like a little insider info a bit onto some of these things almost. Alice, yeah, how did you kind of get started with it? I don't know if we mentioned that earlier, but Ruby having started it in 2020, you kind of took over at some point. So maybe what drew you to it and why you have kind of taken on this project?
Yeah, I joined the Wildlife Project because the mission really deeply resonates with me. I was, as I was also once a youth with disability, I know how it's like to struggle through all these challenges after I graduated and trying to look for work. But then I I experienced my vision loss when I was in my 20s. And at that time, I felt very inadequate and often like battled low self-confidence. Despite having some work experience, I still felt very incompetent. And it took me quite a while to overcome all these feelings. So when I discovered this wildlife project, I can't wait to be part of this project because because going through those feelings myself over the years, I really empathize with the challenges like faced by these young people with disability. So I want to contribute to creating solutions and trying to really create this inclusive society for everyone, to really trying to shift everyone's perception about hiring people with disabilities. And I think there are a lot of work that people have achieved so far, but there are also work to be done.
Totally, yeah. Which I guess goes towards the toolkit, right? This is something new that's going to be coming out. Whoever wants to answer this, but can you describe the function of the YLI toolkit and the process of creating it, and just what it is in general? I think it's going to be a really cool thing for people to access.
I can kind of speak to that. So basically, all the data that was done before was courtesy of Max and Alice and the team prior to me joining. So I'm very thankful that all that groundwork was kind of laid for us already. From there, it's really been trying to kind of answer those needs that they've identified. And to do that, we've kind of looked at various like government resources, like videos posted online. And the toolkit is basically a compilation of all these different resources and tools that we've found to answer these questions. And the cool thing about the toolkit is that it's accessible via the Disability Foundation website. So the whole interface is fully accessible and meets the needs of anyone who may need certain accessibility options. And we also provide these summaries and key findings for the toolkit on each article, website, training as well. So it's a very like easy to skim through uh, site.
Yeah. And one point I want to add on
Hmm.
to that is all the resources that we gathered are based on the recommendations of the Wildlife Advisory Committee. And during this process, we had like multiple in-depth discussions to go over the findings that we identified in the research and try and come up with solutions. And based on these recommendations, we are able to find the very valuable resources online that really tailored towards post-secondary youth with disabilities.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great. Can you maybe go into some detail about like what someone might find in the Wild Out Toolkit? Like, what are some of the resources, just broadly that that youth are able to access?
I can speak about that.
Mhm.
And as mentioned, the toolkit it's mainly um to compiling like solutions to the attitudinal barriers that we have identified. So, for example, there are low self-confidence, coping with stress in the workplace, asking for accommodations, disclosing their disability, dealing with discrimination. In addition to that, we also have gathered a lot of career tips that are really specific for youth with disabilities, and hopefully they can have more success in their career journey.
Okay, cool. So like, if there's something they need to talk to their employer about, you've kind of laid out how to approach that, what things to really like make sure to say, and what to emphasize. Is that kind of the idea?
Exactly.
Okay,
And
cool.
in addition to that, there will be a myth busting component in it as well. So oftentimes employers might have, for example, employers have misconceptions about providing workplace accommodation costs a lot of money, but in fact, it's not. A lot of accommodations, in fact, it's free. For example, flexible hours or a longer break. And these are just flexibilities that employers can provide without any cost. And
Mm,
if the employees do need some accommodations, for example, and a screen reader, in fact, all our provincial governments have some kind of programs that can assist people with disabilities to acquire these assistive devices to help them in their employment. And on our toolkit, we do also have these a list of organizations that are able to assist people in acquiring the equipment they need. These are just a few examples that I listed, and there are more to be discovered in the toolkit.
And I just wanted to point out that we also have resources for employers as well, to sort of uh, to try to assist maybe smaller organizations that maybe do not have as much knowledge about people with disabilities and youth with disabilities in particular, and to sort of the goal is basically to help them and sort of expand their sort of horizon in terms of what it's like to work with a person with disabilities and how they perform as employees, and sort of in this Alex mentioned there is this myth busting element as well.
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. Cool.
I know we kind of sent some questions that just to prepare, but this is just something I thought of. Was there any like data you collected during like the research phase of this that was like surprising, or something that stood out that you're like, oh, whoa, this is something that maybe more people should know about, or something that surprised you even?
One surprising finding that we had was the theoretical expectation about the concept of performance expectation, the one I mentioned about when you think that you need to work more
Mm-hmm.
than a person without disability. So uh, I expected that that's going to be a negative factor, meaning it's going to like decrease chances of someone getting employed if you think about it too much.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently it was the opposite. Actually, the when a person thought that they need to work a lot more because of their disability, they were more likely to be hired than the person who did not think that. So
Interesting.
uh,
Huh.
my so I do not really have an exact explanation why we got this result, but one of the things that uh, could be an explanation is that these people could have like a sort of a work ethic that sort of helps them to
Like be more
but
desirable. Yeah.
or like navigate the job sort of
Yeah.
search field or whatever. So maybe that is why we got this result, but honestly in the future that would be interesting to look at further.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
maybe
with
the employer realizes, oh, this person actually is willing to work harder than the next person.
I,
Yeah,
s-
that's interesting.
I
Like,
suppose then, but the danger is then you need to make sure the employer isn't taking
yeah,
advantage
for
and
sure.
making the employee work more hours than like they should or
Still has to
something
be
like that.
fair.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they might be. So that's like kind of the opposite problem then is that you have to deal with like, okay, make sure that you aren't being taken advantage of in the
Yeah.
workplace, kind of then.
Um,
Mhm.
weird though, like the actual attitudinal barrier ended up working in the favor of the person instead of
Yeah.
against. That's
Huh?
so cool.
That is wild. Yeah.
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 I
Interesting.
think also that may like there is a possible explanation that the respondents might be more resilient, like they're
Mm,
more adaptive to the work environment. They are willing to work longer hours to get the things completed. However, at the same time, I think it's like to your point, it's important to let employers know that don't take advantage over
Mm-hmm.
these and allow them to take longer breaks, take breaks in between. And
mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be straight that, okay, you can only take breaks between 12 to 1, and that's about it. And that might not work for everyone. So
Right.
this is the point we want to bring out too.
So that's
Yeah.
all in the toolkit as well. Like, um, so instead of doing a 9 to 5, maybe it's a longer day, but with more time in between to rest or to have break and not feel like you are being overworked.
Exactly. Like there is one thing we want to emphasize is that accommodation should be personalized. Everyone would have different needs, and it is important for employers to really attend to their individual needs in order to let their employees to really fully shine in their workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes
Interesting.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are there some like tangible ways you've seen the work of this toolkit impact youth in the community? Like, have you any examples maybe of some feedback from people?
Josh, would you like to take that?
Yeah, for sure. So as of yet, we haven't like we've just gone live with phase one.
Okay.
So we're hoping to get more feedback from youth. So we've actually incorporated a feedback option on the toolkit website where youth can kind of, or even employers can kind of speak to what they found helpful and what they didn't. So at this time, it's more of in an experimental phase, if you will,
I
where we're
see.
kind of just trying to perfect what we have and trying to more not individualize it but make it more accessible for a larger audience as well. So we're in the fine-tuning process. We've also kind of created different avenues of marketing for the toolkit that we're hoping will kind of reach out to larger audiences, like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok as well.
Cool.
So it's our hope that they'll really use the feedback feature and kind of give us more constructive things to work on in the future.
Yeah, you just mentioned those different ways to get connected. This is a perfect chance to plug that. How can people find these channels? Like, what are the names? How can they locate them?
Yeah, so right now we're on TikTok and Instagram. Instagram, we're under the Disability Foundation. So if you want to go to Instagram and search that, Facebook as well. On TikTok, we have our own personalized channel, and I believe the handle for that would be one. The handle for that would be _2023.
Okay.
And we make new videos every week. And we've also kind of been incorporating some resources from the toolkit into our TikTok channel. Our most recent video is kind of interview tips, which was done by
Mm.
Serena. So we're hoping to kind of create an integrated multimedia toolkit as well.
Oh, cool. So like you're sort of turning your TikTok channel into like mini episodes of toolkit topics.
Exactly, yeah. So kind of getting like these short term videos out there to kind of increase um, clicks for the toolkit
Mhm.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
disperse information.
Yeah, and even if that reaches not the target audience, probably the more visibility about youth with disability, it's probably for the better because I don't think the average person might think about that very often. Hey, like with the different challenges a youth with a disability might face.
Mhm. Exactly. And also, our targeted age group is from 17 to 29. So, they are at the age of post-secondary. So they are facing barriers like from transitioning from school to workplace. And in addition to that, they are facing other barriers due to their disabilities. So we can see there are multiple challenges and there are some gaps that I think Wildlife can help fill in order to help them to bridge the gap.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's great. I mean, that's a difficult time in anybody's life.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
a lot of transition going on, and I can imagine that extra complication of a disability might make
Yeah.
that quite a stressful time.
Um, yeah. Last question here, where we can kind of expand on that a bit is, like, what are some new ways you hope to see the YLI impact youth in the disabled community in the future?
Like, is there any sort of direction you hope this toolkit might go in eventually?
Yeah, I can talk about a bit of my personal view. I think so far, Wildlife has a, a significant impact on youth in the disability community. For the toolkit, we have provided practical guidance that encourages personal growth. And also, throughout all our promotions and campaigns, we have successfully raised awareness to the unemployment of youth with disabilities. And like by sparking these dialogue around this topic, we generate responses that shed light on these challenges. And I remember receiving one comment from one of on social media. She talked about she was commenting on our research findings, and she mentioned that it's great work, great research and graphics, and these needs to be seen by the general public.
Mm,
She recognizes that there are a lot of skilled workers and unemployed with disabilities, and businesses should know about this. So it really emphasizes the urgency for wildlife's work. And we are hoping to continuing bringing awareness on this topic. One thing that I'm thinking is to continue on the community engagement, to really to bring in all the young people with lived experience coming together to share their experience to learn from each other, and most importantly, to support each other. And with this collective effort, it will create a very profound impact on their personal and also professional life as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
the second thing that I'm thinking is to bring awareness to employers, to engage in partnership with employers. We want to have a more close partnership with employers and trying to um, advocate for inclusive hiring practices, providing workplace accommodations to their employees with lived experience. Like by working directly with the employers, we can really bring the topic up to their front. And hopefully, this is something that we can do in the near future.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. But yeah, I think that's everything that we're hoping to talk about again today. Does anyone have anything else they want to add? Any final comments, maybe? Open the floor here.
Just in terms of the future, I remember when the project started, not the final goal, but something that we would love to see while I do could be that while itself could offer some sort of either a transition program or sort of a program that helps with gaining employment, or offers some sort of practical assistance or whatnot to youth with disabilities in terms of employment. But obviously that depends on a lot of factors, and that I would say that would be a sort of not an ultimate goal, but a goal for the YLA to
One
serve.
of the many goals. Yeah.
One of the many goals to
Yeah.
thrive for. So
Yeah, that's great. That's totally what I was wondering about. Just like what you were hoping for down the road for
Yeah.
YLI. So yeah, it's awesome.
Sure. That's fantastic, though. I just want to remind everyone listening right now, again, where you can find the YLI. It's going to be on Instagram or Facebook as Disability Foundation, on TikTok as YLI_2023, and you can find more info on www.disabilityfoundation.org.
Which is where the toolkit is itself, right?
Yes, yeah.
Exactly. Or you can find us on ylitoolkit.org.
Okay.
Right. Yes, the own website too.
Great.
Many ways, and I think everyone, even if you aren't a youth with a disability, everyone should check it out and just open up that dialogue and understand what challenges there are out there, and hopefully we can make things more accessible for everyone within this age group. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Alice, Max, and Josh.
Thank you so much. Such a nice conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for having us here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks again, guys. We really appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah, it was our pleasure.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have to get together again once we move past phase 1 and get some more feedback and some users on the toolkit. We'll have to do a follow-up and talk more about it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Well, again, thanks for coming on, and looking forward to the future.